A headline: John Wick. Body: there is no patience for the wicked. That is why they have no rest. This version imagines what that principle looks like, how it manifests in characters, cities, systems, and psychological states, drawing on literary, mythological, political, and cinematic references to paint a rich, layered portrait. Restless systems, the wicked and the withholding of patience. There is a man whose name has become a verb. To John Wick, someone means to pursue them without pause, to make rest impossible for those who believed they could slip free. But long before he was a verb, John Wick was a man who wanted peace, and peace was denied him. So he became something else, not an avenger, but a condition, a shadow in the air for those who did wrong. There is no patience for the wicked. That is why they have no rest. That sentence could be a proverb, a closed system, a theological indictment, or a design schematic for an entire city of consequence. But what does it look like? It looks like a man driving at 3 a.m., unable to sit still, with a loaded weapon in the glove compartment and his hands trembling on the wheel. It looks like the corner office that stays lit every night until morning because the CEO can't fall asleep without the white noise of profit. It looks like a war that continues after its generals are dead because no one can remember how to stand down. It looks like John Wick in his black suit digging up the tools he swore he'd buried, not because he wants to, but because rest will not let him be. I, the face of restlessness. To see what this line means, one must begin with what it denies. Patience. Patience is what allows space. It is the soft breath in between consequences. It's what a parent grants a child, what a friend grants a friend, what a society grants its outcasts before it turns against them. The wicked, in this case, are not necessarily those who do evil once. They are the ones who operate as if the world owes them no resistance. They stretch the patience of others until the fabric tears. And when it tears, the world snaps back like a rubber band. What follows is a withdrawal of time, attention, grace, leniency. No one waits anymore. No one listens to the excuses. The meetings don't happen. The favor isn't returned. The welcome mat is rolled up. The locks are changed. This is not the end of mercy. It is the end of indulgence. And without that indulgence, the wicked begin to move, not forward, but in circles, like animals that cannot find shelter, like systems that forgot how to turn themselves off. Second motion, without progress. Restlessness is often mistaken for energy, but it is not the same thing. There are entire structures, financial, political, even religious, that move with furious velocity, yet never go anywhere. They shift alliances, rewrite narratives, spin blame like thread on a wheel, but at their core, they are motion without progress. This is what the wicked inherit when patience runs dry. Not punishment, not wrath, but exhaustion. They become perpetual motion machines, grinding systems, institutions that devour their own personnel, cities that never sleep, not out of joy or art or nightlife, but because something inside them cannot stop watching the door. Restlessness, in this sense, is not merely the symptom of guilt. It is the architecture of fear, and wickedness constructs its own labyrinth. The restless house. Imagine a house that cannot sleep. The walls buzz with surveillance. The lights flicker, but never dim. The sound of approaching footsteps plays in an endless loop through the security system. Inside, the inhabitants speak softly, always wondering if someone has returned for them. This is not a haunted house. This is a guilty house, built by wickedness, maintained by vigilance, defended by those who can never fully explain why they're afraid, only that they must never be caught unprepared. And that's what the fragment looks like in architecture. Homes, buildings, cities designed for war in times of peace. Just in case, just in case, just in case. Because the wicked believe they have reason to fear, and when patience is withdrawn, their fear becomes prophecy. The return of the buried. In the John Wick films, the titular character attempts to live in peace. He leaves the life, he buries the tools, he grieves, but someone kills his dog. a symbolic erasure of his final link to humanity, to rest, and so he digs it all up. That's what happens when the wicked come too close to someone who is trying to sleep. They wake up the thing that lives beneath. This is not just a metaphor for vengeance. It is a metaphor for the return of consequence, the buried thing unearthed, the ledgers dusted off, the favors called in, the laws once dormant made active again. So what does the line look like? It looks like the phone ringing after years of silence. It looks like doors slamming in unison. It looks like the calm man with the dark eyes walking back into the city, this time with nothing left to lose. V, the conscience as predator. On a smaller scale, the fragment takes human form. Picture a man who has lied his way through a family, or a woman who climbed the ladder by stepping on every rung twice. When patience runs out, when no one believes them anymore, listens anymore, plays along, the silence becomes deafening. They begin to haunt themselves. It looks like rechecking locks 10 times a night. It looks like avoiding certain phone calls, then hating the silence that follows. It looks like insomnia masked by late-night productivity. The wicked don't always fear justice. Often they fear exposure. They fear being seen, not killed, seen, because rest requires vulnerability, and vulnerability is what the wicked cannot afford. Sixth, systems that can't shut down. Corporate crime operates under the illusion of infinite growth. The wicked in these systems believe that more is always better, and consequences are always negotiable. But when the market turns or a whistleblower appears, patience disappears. Boards vote, stocks fall, governments investigate, banks pull out, and suddenly rest vanishes. What does that look like? It looks like a billion-dollar company running on crisis mode at 3 a.m. every night. It looks like emails sent with trembling fingers and words like, as previously discussed, used like shields. It looks like legal teams assembling not for strategy, but for survival. The machine cannot stop, but it is no longer advancing. It is spiraling. Seventh, warfare by exhaustion. One of the most terrifying aspects of wickedness is that it often appears calm. It wears suits, it signs treaties, it makes promises. But when that wickedness is confronted, not by anger, but by withdrawal, the mask begins to crack. Patience is the last form of belief, and when it is withheld, what remains is friction. The wicked begin to generate heat. They sweat. They burn through people, money, goodwill. Their movements become erratic. They may escalate, but only because they don't know how to slow down. This is warfare by exhaustion. The wicked don't die by confrontation. They die by attrition. What does it look like? It looks like a man trying to bribe someone who no longer speaks to him. It looks like a government doubling down on lies long after the crowd has walked away. It looks like a dying star, burning brighter, hotter, and faster right before collapse. What the withholding of patience feels like. For all its structural and systemic expressions, the line operates most painfully on the level of feeling. To live in a world where no one has patience, left means to live in a world without cushioning. Every interaction is sharp. Every conversation feels like a trial. There is no room for pause, for trust, for grace. This is what the wicked feel, even if they cannot name it. They become paranoid, not because they know who is coming, but because they no longer trust that anyone will let them go. They are hunted by the absence of relief. The tragedy is that some of them don't even remember what rest was. They never had it. They only know its absence. Ninth, mythological echoes. In myth, this principle repeats often. Prometheus stole fire and was chained, forever eaten by an eagle. Not destroyed, just prevented from resting. Sisyphus pushed the boulder forever. These are punishments designed not to inflict pain, but to suspend resolution. Even in the afterlife of many traditions, wickedness is not always met with fire. Sometimes it is met with noise, with memory, with replay, with repetition. Hell is not the burning, it is the turning. That's what the line suggests, that the true cost of wickedness is not a spectacular fall. It is perpetual motion, without music, without sleep. X, the last friend of the wicked. There is perhaps one companion the wicked retain when patience is gone. Restlessness, not joy, not guilt, not memory, only restlessness remains. The last friend of the wicked, the only companion left when everyone else stops waiting, stops hoping, stops trusting. It becomes the drumbeat, the steering wheel, the old phone that won't stop vibrating. It looks like John Wick, standing alone in the snow, waiting for someone to come try. Not because he loves it, because they will, and so he cannot rest. 11th, the image of what remains. In the end, what does the phrase look like? It looks like a man with blood on his shoes, checking the clock again. Not because he's late, but because something is always coming. It looks like cities with no off switches. It looks like dogs that flinch at kindness. It looks like people who fear sleep more than death. It looks like a name, whispered, then warned, then too late. It looks like John Wick.